American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down.
Welcome to another episode of
American
Timelines. I'm Amy and that's Joe.
That's true, and we are History for Jerks. I'm the history, she's the jerk.
Wait a minute. It is not.
All right, I'm the jerk.
And today we have
And
a
our
special
relationship
guest.
is history. Oh, no, yeah, we do have a very special guest today. We found somebody. We had to really dig deep and, go to senior centers to find somebody who was born in 1951.
In February.
February. Yeah, we're in February of 1951, so we want to talk to somebody. We just happen to know somebody very special to us who was born February 13th of 1951. Not to age her at all, but please welcome my mother, Lynn. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi, kids. I love you.
Hi.
We love you too.
It's my
It's so
mom,
exciting
Lynn.
for you to be here.
I guess I should have given some of your bio. Like, she worked at Consignment Home Interiors. She's an interior designer. She holds a master's degree in accounting or whatever it is. Or she went to University of Toledo for 2 years. Proud mother of 3 young strapping boys with a lot of body hair.
And she must have drank a lot during her pregnancies.
Oh!
That's the
Anyway.
that's the only
Welcome, Lynn. Thanks for being here.
Digs up. Thank you, guys. I'm so proud of you. This
You are?
podcast is fabulous. Yeah.
All right.
It's absolutely fabulous.
What
You
I mean,
guys are,
you're proud. There's a percentage, I'm sure, that it's proud, and then a percentage is disappointed. Would you say it's like 80-20?
No.
80-20,
No.
90-10?
I feel no disappointment.
Is there
Just
any,
pride.
really no resentment even?
No. I
All
do
right,
not resent.
This is your chance to yell at me about anything I've said on the podcast that's upset you. Or Amy. You can yell at Amy.
Yeah, you can yell at me.
No, I don't think you've ever. A couple times you've kind of dissed on some of the artists that I've liked over the years.
Oh.
Said they're the most horrible people ever.
Like
And
Kevin Costner?
I don't like Kevin Costner
Oh.
particularly.
Hear that, everybody? My mom hates Kevin Costner. No, what artist did
I don't hate him.
What artist did we diss on that you like?
No, it was a recording
A
artist,
singer.
A singer
Yeah.
or a band or something.
So who was
And
it
I
that
just
we?
thought- well, I don't know.
It was probably in the
I can't
70s.
remember.
Carly Simon, maybe?
Yeah, you've done so many
Yeah.
bands,
Yeah.
and I just kind of cringed because I thought you were pretty harsh, Joe.
Really?
It was well, you know you were. I mean,
Oh, I'm
you said
sure.
if anybody ever listens to that person, don't ever do this podcast again.
It's true.
Sometimes I do go to the extreme.
Yes, that's true.
Darling,
I thought it
don't
was just a little harsh.
why I go to extremes. Who sings
Okay.
that?
I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for being so harsh. If you think back in the future to whatever artist that I said that about, sometimes I'll get a little extreme, and I don't ever mean that. So we welcome listeners of
I know.
everyone. Kevin Costner fans, we welcome you. But Mom, there's something we've noticed recently is there's a lot of people that like or follow us on different social media. And I really think it's people that have never listened to us and just follow us because we have American in our name. Because I'll look at the person's profile and they're all like Confederate flags and
my
supporting
God.
the insurrection and stuff. But they give us a thumbs up on everything we say. I'm like, what? There's no
You
way.
obviously never listened.
They've clearly never listened to our podcast.
And they're welcome to listen, but
Yeah.
I don't think they'll enjoy it.
I don't think they'll like us particularly
No.
if they hear, kind of our. We try not to talk about politics too much, but it's clear if
When
you ever
it's
listen.
history,
Yeah.
when it's history, though, it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah, I think there's some people that just go through and Google American and then like everything that says American.
Yeah,
It's
I
probably true.
think you're probably onto something there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Quite a
So,
few folks.
So you know how it goes. We jump through chronologically, and we're in February of 1951. So we're going to start the beginning of February. We're going to kind of go through, and
then when we get to February 13th, you're going to graphically describe your birth.
Yes, we'd like to know everything you've heard about your birth,
In
anything
graphic
about
detail.
Sizes and shapes of
All right.
grandma's genitalia.
All right.
Oh, boy.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Oh,
I
you
don't
brought it up.
remember any of it.
Okay, or just maybe if she told you any of those things. But we will sing happy birthday on that day because we are actually in February, and this is 70 years ago. We're recording this in the same month that we're on. We're in the 70-year anniversary of what we're talking about.
Oh, that's
70 years
weird.
later, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's like one of those glitches in the Matrix.
It is like a weird glitch because we just celebrated my mom's 70th birthday during a pandemic,
Yeah.
which means we just had a Zoom call. So that was great 70th birthday.
I do have to say that video that you made, all of you guys made, was the best thing that I've ever heard in my life. And I'll
Aw.
listen to that every day. You guys you don't know how much that meant.
Well,
I mean, pandemic or not. It was,
just to let people
didn't
know.
feel
Right.
alone.
Yeah. Joe made a video of two old guys.
It was lemonparty.org,
Yeah.
and I sort of
And she sent
I did
it
a
to
voiceover of
his
Lemon
mom.
Party.
He sent it to his mom for birthday.
No, that's not what it was. I had this idea because it's a big birthday, but we couldn't spend it together. Nobody could because it's a pandemic, and you should be staying home. We didn't know. I didn't know what to do, so I had this idea a while back. A friend of mine did this where she just made up. Had some phone number where you could leave voicemails for somebody, and she said, "I got this box set up. Just leave messages to say happy birthday."
What's the thing in case somebody's interested in that?
I never found what she was doing, so I made up my own. So I don't. That might be a website somewhere you do that. I don't know. So I never found it. So what I did is, you can set up a Google phone number. You can have a Google phone number.
That's true. That's right.
That's like goes to a voicemail that's accessed by your email. And so you can save all the voicemails as MP3s. So I had set up that phone number a long time ago, never really used it. So I just sent that out, and I secretly got a whole lot of my mom's friends and had them all leave messages. And then stupid me always making more work for myself. Instead of just giving her access to that voicemail box, I decided to make an audio file, mix-mashing all that like it was a documentary about her, like everybody just talking about her and putting video pictures together, and sent that to her. So
and definitely picking the most flattering pictures of each person.
well, I wanted to have fun with it, so I decided to take people's Facebook pictures, like their worst pictures I could find of them, saying things. So that was fun. So
well, I know that was a lot of work, and I'll treasure that forever.
but
until
that's
I
the
lose
thing.
it
So
off my phone.
here's proof that people like it. And she was very moved and loved it.
So that's- yeah, that's
so
a
you
good
should
idea.
do that. If those of us who know how to edit video or audio, or if worst case scenario, you can just send the voicemails, forward them on emails to the person. And
Yeah.
that'd be fine. Which I can still do if you want all those as email separate files. I can do that. But
No, don't worry about it.
But we're gonna jump in here.
I'm-
We've talked too much.
Okay.
We've blabbed too much about your birthday present, Mom. Go on and on. Thanks a lot. Slowing down our podcast. But we're going to start with February 3rd, 1951. Amy and my mom happen to both be huge Dick Button enthusiasts, and this was U.S. figure skater Dick Button won the U.S. skating title for the sixth
God.
time.
That is an unfortunate name.
Dick Button.
Like
He's
I
got
wonder,
a button dick.
Yeah,
Hey, Button Dick. I only left that in there because his name is Dick Button.
yeah,
I love that.
I can see why.
And that same day, the largest purse to date in horse racing was won by Great Circle. You want to guess how much the money prize was? Largest to date in 1951.
144,343.
Nope, 144,323.
Oh,
You were off by 20.
darn it.
What?
You were real close, though. You were real close. Real close guess.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Not too bad.
She looked at my laptop.
Yeah, I could see
She
it.
looked at my
I was
paper.
going to say.
I could
Yeah.
see it. Obviously not very good,
Okay.
but I could see it.
She could see enough, but that your eye doctor would be disappointed.
Yes, he would.
But everybody else would be excited. Mom, what were you going to guess? What would you have guessed?
Oh, I don't have any idea. I don't play the horses or anything.
Have you ever been
And
to
I don't even.
Have you ever been to a horse racing track?
Yeah, I had a girl that worked for me that trained horses and had a horse farm.
Really?
Remember Julie?
Oh, Julie.
Rawson. That's where we got Daisy.
Oh my gosh, really?
She was.
Daisy
Yeah,
was our
Daisy.
dog. Daisy was
Yeah.
the best dog ever. Everyone loves Daisy.
I know.
Sorry, Weezy.
But we used to go to it wasn't like race horses. It was where they do. What's the other way that you race horses?
In the nude?
A water polo, I'm thinking. Underwater racing.
Dressage?
I don't think they had jockeys. It seemed like they had. Well, I don't know. But
What's-
we used to go to those races.
What's the thing where you take nude pictures on the back of a horse? Is that a thing?
The Lady Godiva.
Like Lady Godiva, that's a
Lady
thing.
Godiva.
That's a thing.
All right, what's
All right, I'm going to jump to February 6, 1951. And so far, 1951, oh no, 1950 the 50s have been predominantly news stories about Paul Harvey. So I'm going to continue that trend and have another Paul Harvey is a big, important thing with 1950s. And this story comes from WBEZ Chicago. On February 6th, radio commentator Paul Harvey was arrested.
Whoa.
Which I would have, I would have told you 100 times out of 100 that there's no way Paul Harvey's ever been arrested. But he was arrested for trying to sneak into Argonne National Laboratory, a nuclear test site located, it's probably Argonne, but I don't know how to say it. A nuclear test site located 20 miles west of Chicago. Harvey was 32 years old. He'd recently begun broadcasting a daily program out of the Chicago office of the ABC radio network. And then he received a tip about security problems at the Argonne National Laboratory. It was a top-secret nuclear facility. The Korean War was on, atomic spies were in the news, and Harvey decided to see for himself whether Argonne's security was lax.
Whoa.
So shortly after midnight on February 6th, Harvey drove out to the lab in his car. Along with him were two men who worked inside Argonne. That must have told him that it was lax. So he parked his car just outside the grounds, and Harvey began scaling the 10-foot-high fence. And his companions,
What?
Yeah, and his companions remained behind. Can you picture Paul Harvey climbing?
No.
And that's the rest of the story. And I'm sure he looked like he was 80 when he was 32.
Yeah.
So here's Paul Harvey climbing this fence while his friends are in the car. Harvey was just coming down inside the fence when a guard spotted him. The guard ordered him to halt. Harvey stopped, stumbled, and fell. When he got up, he was placed under arrest. Meanwhile, the two men outside the fence took off. They left him.
God.
They left him there.
Yeah.
Harvey was taken to Chicago FBI headquarters for questioning, and because his driver's license was in his birth name, Paul Orant, and at first they thought that he might be a spy. When his identity as a newscaster was established, Harvey was released. FBI determined that he hadn't broken any federal laws and dropped the matter, but on March 15th, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced plans to seek an indictment.
Really?
Yeah. And the charges involved conspiracy to obtain information on national security and transmit it to the public. Harvey had told...
That seems like it's a crime.
Yeah, it should be a crime, don't you think? I mean,
Well, but he's doing it to see if to make a story about lax security.
yeah, and I guess he already was a pretty, somewhat known
Yeah.
person, so he could prove it pretty easily who he is.
I don't know. I don't know.
I wondered if he, told his superiors what he was doing or if they were aware of it. He had conflicting stories when he was questioned. Papers found in his car suggested he'd snuck into Argonne to prepare a sensational radio expose, but the worst that could be said was that he'd let his enthusiasm get the better of his judgment, a not uncommon fault of young journalists. The grand jury refused to indict, and he was cleared of all charges on April 4th. Yep, and then he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, and he died of murder in 2009.
No, he did not.
No, he just died of old age. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so shoot, Paul Harvey was 32 70 years ago.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, he'd be really old today.
yes.
And that's the same exact day that a Pennsylvania railroad a Pennsylvania railroad train derailed, crossing a temporary wooden trestle in Woodbridge, New Jersey, killing 85 people.
Whoa.
It remains New Jersey's deadliest train wreck. The deadliest U.S. derailment since 1918 and the deadliest peacetime rail disaster in the U.S. Basically, this one boiled down to there was a temporary wooden trestle as they were getting ready to build the Jersey Turnpike, I think. Mm-hmm. And everybody's supposed to go like 20 miles an hour over it, and this guy went 50 miles an hour.
So one
over
guy
it.
caused that?
I mean, the train conductor, yeah.
Oh,
he
man.
drove in, yeah. So it was like 5 cars, yeah.
Wow.
It was, yeah. It went over an express train to Bay Head via the North Jersey coastline. Number 733 was crowded that day due to a labor strike on the nearby Jersey Central Railroad.
Did you just say it went over? It crashed on top of another train?
No.
Oh.
It went over the water, I think, over the coastline.
Oh, okay.
It carried over 1,000 passengers and 11 cars.
Wow.
I'm trying to think here. Let's see. Joseph Fitzsimmons was the conductor, and he failed to slow the train as it approached. And he claimed that he was going 20 miles an hour, but they saw he was over 50 miles an hour. Yeah. 8 of the train's 11 passenger cars derailed. The first 2 cars fell on their sides. The third and fourth cars crashed into each other as they hurtled down a 26-foot high embankment.
Whoa.
It was these 2 cars that most of the 85 deaths occurred. The fifth and sixth cars were left hanging in midair over a street that glistened from rain. And and they think some passengers may have jumped to their deaths, believing that they would land in water, but they didn't know they were over a road. They thought they were over the water. The accident occurred in a heavily populated area. So help soon arrived. And back then, it's a different time. Neighbors opened their houses and businesses to those in need. The critically injured were taken to nearby hospitals.
Well, yeah, it was different.
Yep.
As long as they were white people in need.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Amy's always reminding us that we live in a racist country founded on racism.
I'm going to touch on that a bit.
Yeah, so you'll get into that a little bit. Because I have, when we're talking about, Mom, I know you're going to talk about a great African-American woman in history, and I have a neat one that I've never heard of that is really kind of a really amazing African-American person who sort of became great, really not of her own, but let me just tell you about it. February 8th, 1951, and feel free to add if you guys have heard of this. I never knew this existed. Oprah was in a movie playing this woman's daughter on HBO, which I watched the trailer of. On February 8, 1951, a woman named Henrietta Lacks donated her tumor cells to science without knowing it. Her cells would be the first immortal cells that could be kept alive for medical use. They've been used for everything from creating the polio vaccine to cloning. Over 20 tons of her cells have been grown to date.
What?
Does this sound weird? It sounds weird,
so
right?
far over my head.
Have you heard of this? Henrietta Lacks?
Not the name specifically, but I know that it was without her permission or her acknowledgement at all. Mm-hmm. They just did it. I know they did a lot of experimental stuff on black men and women.
Yep. Yeah.
Those.
And this one I don't think had anything to do with her being an African American. I think they've said, from what I could find, they used everybody's cells without anybody's permission all the time in the 50s, I guess. They just they felt like once they took something out of your body, it belonged to them. But she was a 31-year-old African American mother of 5 who was admitted to Johns Hopkins Hospital with symptoms of irregular vaginal bleeding and was subsequently treated for cervical cancer. She ended up dying in October. But the cell line, they created a cell line from her cells, from her tumor. They took these cells out of her tumor, and a cell line is like they keep multiplying. And they just and hers have gone on forever, like they're still going. Her cell line was found to be remarkably durable and prolific, which allows it to be used extensively in scientific study. Her cervical biopsy supplied samples of tissue for clinical evaluation research by Dr. George Otto Gay, head of the tissue culture laboratory, and was done with other surgical procedures. And her cells grew robustly, doubling every 20 to 24 hours, unlike any previous specimens that they've had that usually die out in a few days.
Oh, wow.
So they were able to keep they had to do things to keep the environment right, but with the right environment, her cells just kept replicating themselves. These
Do they
cancerous cells.
explain that?
I don't. I guess it's like, from what I can understand, my caveman brain, the most I can understand is like, I'm thinking of it as like these are cancerous cells. So it's
Yeah.
like cancers grow and spread. I think.
Yeah.
So her cells have been doing that. So they've been able to test these cells replicating so well and doing so much. It's like basically it's now we have these cells that can survive outside the body. So we can test these cells that aren't connected to a person
For like medication.
for other things. And here's all the
treatments.
things. Here's all the things her cells have done because they keep replicating. They keep using for different things. Now we should say they were taken without her knowledge or consent, but they became so famous because they've done so many things that eventually somebody got a hold of her family to say, "Hey, did you know that your mom's cells are?" And Oprah there's a movie on HBO about her. And Oprah plays her daughter, and it's kind of like this whole thing. Like, no, nobody ever asked us. Nobody told us even that she's this groundbreaking woman. And like, how about some, acknowledgement? And so in the 70s, the family found out and stuff. But so the cells were propagated by Gay shortly before Lax died of her cancer, which means like they were multiplied and kept making more of them, the cell line. And then Gay, who was the scientist that did this, he freely donated the cells to any other scientist that requested them to do anything. So that way it got out to people studying all kinds of things. So her cells were the first to be cloned. They helped eradicate polio. They tested how parvovirus infects cells of humans, dogs, and cats. They were instrumental in the development of the human papillomavirus vaccines, which have reduced the number of deaths from cervical cancer by 70%. And they found out that she actually died of HPV. Like, that's what she had. They found that out years later, I think. So over the years, her cells have been infected with various types of viruses, including HIV, Zika, herpes, mumps. In 1953, a lab mistake involved mixing HeLa cells. They call them HeLa cells because her name was Henrietta Lacks. HeLa, they just use the first two letters. An accident caused them. They used the wrong liquid, allowed researchers to see and count each chromosome clearly in her cells. And this is the first time they figured out how many pairs of chromosomes we actually have as humans because of her. 23, not 24. In 1965, Henry Harris and John Watkins created the first human-animal hybrid by fusing her cells with mouse cells.
Oh, weird.
Jeez.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess
We
to
want
figure
mouse people.
I guess they just wanted to know like what things can happen. Like maybe they want to make mouse people a mouse people army. But if you Google an image search human mouse hybrids, animal human hybrids, you get all kinds of crazy stuff.
I'm sure.
But in the 1960s, HeLa's cells were sent to space, and they discovered that her cells actually multiplied even faster in zero gravity. So they were instrumental in the Human Genome Project, figuring out how to map the human body. So this woman her cells are like super cells and have like helped medical science technology a millionfold.
Yeah.
Without her
Consent.
Yeah. So that's crazy. Just a crazy thing that I never heard of.
I've never heard of that
I had
either.
no idea. And I'm sure I got some of that wrong because I'm not a biologist. I barely understand
Yeah.
You're not?
science at all. No, I'm not. I dabble. And that'll take us to February 10th, 1951, when I'm going to play this video, Mom, and see if you can hear it. See this?
Yes.
February 10th, 1951, John and Marcia by Stan Freberg.
Oh, God, he was fabulous.
Marcia. John. Marcia. John? Marcia. John. Marcia. John.
This is a parody of daytime soap operas, which had only two voices repeating each other's names, and it peaked at number 21 in the USA.
Marcia.
Like as a song?
Yeah, this is just a parody of soap operas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
I'm not gonna find it.
offbeat, kind of Dave Letterman kind of type.
Yeah, I remember that from not that exact recording, but Bugs Bunny always had that.
Oh,
when
yeah,
everybody was
that's
watching
right.
soap operas,
That's
like
right.
John, Marcia. But I didn't know who Stan Freberg was, and I listened to that whole thing. And I'll put the audio in post. And so I was fascinated with the fact that was like on the Billboard charts, and they played that on the radio and stuff.
Yes,
so,
it's kind of weird.
I think the world was weird, probably in 1951. I just picture Grandma and Grandpa being young adults, having children, and going through life, everything in the 50s.
Yeah. I think they had some albums of his.
I bet they did. Grandpa loved the comedy type stuff.
Yeah, I think they did.
So you're a
Because I remember hearing them.
big Stan Freberg fan?
I have to go back. I'm 70. That
Yeah.
was 70 years ago.
Well, I looked, and he
So I'd have to go back.
he had done a bunch of
Did you
things
think-
that he's kind of famous for. But yeah, he did seem like a David Letterman, like a silly guy. Yeah.
Did you think he was funny or witty?
I really only watched that one thing. Like, I only watched a little bit here and there, but I was just kind of I didn't really get into a lot of it, but I saw there was a lot, and I thought maybe I'll look him up later. But yeah, he did seem like that type of era's Dave Letterman.
Like Steve Allen and
Yeah,
yeah.
like an early guy.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay, February 14th, 1951, Sugar Ray Robinson defeated Jake LaMotta, and he took the middleweight title.
Yes.
Jake LaMotta is from Raging Bull. Raging Bull's about Jake
I've
LaMotta.
never seen
Yeah.
Raging Bull.
You've never seen Raging Bull?
Nope.
It's pretty good.
Is it?
It's like an Oscar
I did.
winner. It's like a famous Oscar.
It's one of those that you should have seen, but I just never had a chance.
Well, and Amy almost did a story about a Sugar Ray Robinson thing where Sugar Ray Robinson murdered somebody.
No. There was a little girl on her way to go see him, and she
Oh.
got murdered. But it's pretty dark.
A
So.
girl was going to go see him, but she got murdered. It was a little girl's murder, and it was like,
Yeah.
And Amy finally is turning like into me. Like, she's like, I don't want to talk about children being murdered, which is what I've been saying on this podcast for 139 episodes.
All right, what's next?
Next is my mom is going to tell us her story about a woman, and I did say her story on purpose, not history. It's her story.
There you go.
It's her story on American
Now-
Timelines.
Okay, so you want me to talk about my?
Yeah, I want you to
My
tell us about
amazing person.
tell us about a kick-ass woman. And this is Black History Month, so please, Mom, if you could, tell us about an African American woman who kicks ass.
I certainly will, and I'm so disappointed to see that so many of her accomplishments weren't recognized until she was long dead.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, she's
my hero
dead.
here is, Mary Winston Jackson.
Mary Winston Jackson.
Mary Winston Jackson became the first American aeronautical engineer.
Wow.
Yeah, the first one that was American woman, black woman, and aeronautical engineer. And she had quite a battle to get there. She was born in 1921 on April 9th in Hampton, Virginia.
Okay.
Her parents were Ella and Frank Winston, and they soon realized they had a brilliant, gifted child on their hands, mathematical genius. Of course, in Virginia, she attended all black schools.
Yeah.
In high school, yeah,
Yeah, in the
you know,
30s and 20s.
all segregated schools. She graduated from George P. Phoenix Training School with very high honors in 1937.
Huh.
And then by 1942, she had earned dual bachelor's degrees in mathematics and physical science
Wow.
from Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University.
Okay.
From 42 to 51, she worked a series of jobs after graduating from college. She taught, she was a bookkeeper, receptionist. You know, keep in mind this is a black woman in,
Yeah.
1942.
In the 40s, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just think her life is it's an uphill battle for everything she's trying to do all the time.
And she's got 2 degrees in
Yeah.
physical science and mathematics.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So finally, in 1944, she married Levi Jackson. She had 2 kids. He was a new U.S. Navy sailor,
Okay.
and her kids were Levi Jr. and Carolyn Marie.
Okay.
But the big kicker in 1951, after bouncing around from all these different jobs, way below her pay grade, she finally landed a job at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. It was called it was NACA, which
Okay.
was predecessor to NASA.
Oh, okay.
But
Wow.
yeah, and that's what it was back in the 1951.
So wasn't there a movie? There's a movie about her recently, right? About her and some
Yeah.
other lady scientists.
Yeah,
What was that?
I'll
movie
get to that.
called? Okay, you'll get to that. Okay, sorry.
Okay. So anyway, she finally got in the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics. But being a black woman, she was working at the Langley Research Center, which in the West Area Computing Division, which was all black. And
Oh.
they weren't
Oh.
the actual NACA building was segregated. So
Really?
all these women who were the first human computers, they were called computers
Uh-huh.
because there wasn't a computer yet. This IBM enormous, big, huge machine with all these little cards was being developed at NASA, but it like took up a whole room.
Yeah.
So up until then, they had relied on these women to compute all the logistics and dynamics and codes and
So basically, Black Girl Magic
the-
made NASA.
Yes.
exactly. She up until from 1951 to 53, she worked in that Langley Research Center
Yeah.
for NACA, but it was all black women, brilliant, mathematically genius black women
Yeah.
who were figuring out all the coordinates and stuff for the space launches and
Yeah.
all
Wow.
of that. So she was getting extremely frustrated with the horrible conditions that the black people, white people could go eat in the cafeteria and order their food and pick out what they wanted. Black people had to order their food from cafeteria attendants, pick it up, and then take it back to their desks to eat. The restrooms, everything was segregated.
Yeah.
And she felt that was a very severe indignity. She was getting fed up
Yeah.
and getting ready to resign when one of her superiors what is his name? Is a senior aeronautical research engineer named Kazimierz Zarnecki.
Okay.
He was kind of caught wind of her exceptional engineering skills, so he offered her a job to work with him in the 4x4-foot supersonic pressure tunnel. 60,000 horsepower wind tunnel capable of blasting models with winds approaching twice the speed of sound.
I don't think I'd take that job.
So she did it.
It'd
She
have
went
to be
in there.
significant pay upgrade for me to do that.
Well, I'm not sure that she was upgraded all that much.
Yeah, probably not
Probably
the way
not.
they treated her. But yeah, if she get out of those terrible conditions, I guess.
Right. So anyway, she was in the main building now.
Oh, okay.
But of course, she couldn't use any of the bathrooms
Ugh.
in the NASA building. She had to go across the street, down a ways to
can't
go to the
even-
bathroom.
I can't even believe.
And isn't that ridiculous?
Well, and it
just-
wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago. And then people wonder
It wasn't.
why people feel the way they do and why
Of
it's,
course,
I know.
it's like
why
of course
everything is.
white people still have
know.
that in their
Ugh.
brain that they're superior.
That's what's scary.
I mean, you were
And,
born
I
when this was happening.
I was born, but
Yeah.
I was so unaware
Yeah.
and oblivious to what was
I
going
was
on.
too.
because
That's
I was-
exactly it. White. That's what white privilege is.
While she was working for this senior aeronautical research engineer, he was very aware of her talent, and he was encouraging her to take further engineering courses because she had a degree in physical science and math, but
Yeah.
he saw her engineering potential. So he said, you've got to do this. Well, the only places that she could get these continuing education engineering classes were in a white school that wouldn't accept her. She couldn't go in there.
Really.
So
Damn it.
she took it to court.
Wow.
Good.
And she did. She went right to court, and somehow she won the case, although she could only attend night classes. She couldn't
Yeah.
attend during the day. So there she was doing all this rocket science all day
Oh
long.
my gosh.
She had 2 kids.
Yeah. How did she
She'd go
do
home
that?
and,
Superwoman.
yeah, she did. I know. So anyway, that was kind of a breakthrough for her, that she won that court case and was
Yeah.
able
Yes.
to go. And of course, she got a lot of
That's
crap from, walking into an all male
Oh, yeah.
white classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing
Yeah.
that she won that court case. That's amazing that she even thought to take it to
Yeah.
court. Like, I wouldn't even, you wouldn't even know. Wow.
Right.
That's amazing.
she almost didn't, but she did.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So anyway, then she ended up being the first aeronautical engineer, a black woman in history, the history of NASA.
Wow, that's
And by this
awesome.
time, I know NASA had changed from NACA to what we know now as NASA. So she worked there for like 34 years. In 1978, she changed positions. She realized she could not get a supervisory position because of her color. Now, mind you, in 1941, FDR wrote an executive order that prohibits ethnic or racial discrimination in the nation's defense industry. But Virginia has its own state laws,
Oh.
and they remain segregated for all that time. So
Ah,
FDR did that, and it didn't apply to her at all.
Ugh.
So anyway, I know, just sucked. But anyway, she ended up being an HR administrator, and she served as both the Federal Women's Program Manager and Office of Equal Opportunity Program and Affirmative Action Program Manager. And pretty much from then till her retirement in 1985, she helped other women and minorities advance their careers, advising them to study and take extra courses to integrate their chances for promotion. during that career, she served on many organizations, boards, and committees, including the Girl Scouts of America,
Yeah.
and she was honored by numerous charitable organizations for her leadership and service. She died 2005. She died on February 11th, 2005. She was 83, and she was in a convalescent home in Hampton, Virginia, where she was born. And then it wasn't until 2016 that a black author named Margot Lee Shetterly wrote a book called Hidden Figures: The Untold Story of Four African American women who helped launch our nation into space. The book soon became the movie Hidden Figures,
Oh.
and it had Mary Jackson was played by Janelle Monáe.
Oh, I love Janelle Monáe.
She was very hot.
Yeah.
Played her as a real sassy, cute lady.
I didn't know. I didn't see that movie, I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And I didn't know that Janelle Monáe was an actress. I know she's a singer. I love her music. Janelle Monáe is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, her albums
And she
are-
played.
Yeah, go ahead.
My research doesn't show that Mary Jackson was a real hottie.
Yeah.
But in the movie, they take all these creative
Yeah,
license
I mean,
or whatever.
we all know Hollywood only hires gorgeous people.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, look at
But
Jim Varney, who played Ernest in the Ernest Goes to Jail series.
well, Kevin Costner played in the movie Hidden Figures. He played the big boss that was ultimately a hero
Oh, really?
by desegregating the bathrooms in that building.
Is that
Because-
did that really happen? Like, did that boss desegregate the bathrooms, or I don't know?
I think he was sympathetic. I couldn't really determine if
If it was real.
that
or not.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed him in the movie taking a sledgehammer to the segregated bathroom sign
Yeah.
and just knocking it down in front of everybody, and then saying, "Okay, it's
Yeah.
all for one now."
I bet that didn't
Not doing
happen.
this. I bet it didn't either. But so the movie and the book was the story of Mary Jackson and her NASA colleagues Katherine Johnson and Dorothy Johnson Vaughn, who were the three ladies in the Hidden Figures thing. They all were kind of in different areas at NASA, but they basically calculated flight trajectories for the Project Mercury and the Apollo program in the 60s. So,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah, and they kind of, John Glenn would not blast off until he got the clear, because they were developing the IBM system, and there were glitches in that, and there were like discrepancies. And John Glenn said, "Okay, I'm not launching. I'm not going up there
Yeah.
around the world until I verify these coordinates." And he personally asked for her to do it and figure out the coordinates, and she got on the chalkboard and did it, and
Jeez.
it was successful flight.
Wow.
But she ended up posthumously got a Congressional Medal of Honor. They renamed the D.C. headquarters to the Mary W. Jackson headquarters.
Good.
She had high schools named after her.
My gosh. What
And
an amazing woman.
I'll pay. Yeah. So she was pretty awesome. And it wasn't until 2016 that she was given any. I think the Obama
Recognition.
administration kind of started acknowledging what those women did.
Yeah.
But still, she was basically unheard of. I didn't know what her name was or
Yeah.
anything like that. But to think that in 1951 she was
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
instrumental in starting the space race.
That's awesome.
So that's all. I know.
Thank you. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's really great. Mary Winston Jackson, and I was Googling pictures of her while you were talking about that. I don't think she looks like Janelle Monáe, but she looks like a sweet woman.
Yes.
Sweet, nice lady. But Janelle Monáe, they showed pictures of her playing her, and Janelle Monáe is
Gorgeous.
unbelievably gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, no Janelle Monáe, nobody could play. I mean, nobody could. No matter who she plays, they're going to be unbelievable gorgeous.
Exactly.
I'm not sure
And
Janelle
they
Monáe would be
figure-
able to do like Charlize Theron did in Monster. Like, not
Yeah.
that this woman would be Monster at all. I mean, I don't mean that, but just like Janelle Monáe is
Yeah.
unbelievably attractive. But I mean, it's a cool story, and I'm looking at the movie looks cool. There's a lot of pictures of these kick-ass women.
It'd be a good
like-
one to watch with the kids.
Yeah,
probably.
we should watch it. I mean, we've been last night. We started watching One Night in Miami. Have you seen that, Mom? The one about Muhammad Ali and
I'm gonna.
yeah. So anyway, thanks for telling us that story. Mary Winston Jackson kicks ass.
That's right.
She's an
Yes,
ass kicking
ma'am.
woman. She really does kick ass. She's awesome. And Janelle Monáe's got great music.
All right.
It has nothing to do with that. But all right, so we're gonna get to yours real quick, Aim. But I got a couple things in between. Thanks, Mom, for sharing that. That was
yes,
great.
thank you. That was awesome.
And-
You're
oh,
welcome.
did you have any sources to cite? Did you get all that just from Wikipedia, or did you have certain websites?
It was Wikipedia and Britannica.com.
Okay.
www.britannica.com. And somewhere I got the other one written down.
Pornhub.
I'll have to get back to it.
Okay,
I'll
just
let
get
you know.
back to me. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
On February 16th, 1951, New York City passes a bill prohibiting racism in city-assisted housing. Just that's all I really have about it. But just that I can't believe they're finally actually even doing it in 1951. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know.
And then February 18th, 1951, we're going to kind of take a turn here. I looked into this thing that I didn't really know even existed, or I don't know that I understood this much, but there was a huge point shaving scandal in college basketball that year, 1950 and 51. It was a gambling scandal that involved 7 schools in all, with 4 in Greater New York and 3 in the Midwest. But most of the key players in the scandal were players from the 1949-1950 CCNY Beavers men's basketball team. That's City College of New York. They had won the 1950 NCAA men's Division I basketball tournament and the 1950 National Invitation Tournament over Bradley University. The scandal involved the Beavers and at least 6 other schools, including 3 others in the New York City area: New York University, Long Island University, and Manhattan College. It spread out of New York City to Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, the University of Kentucky, and the University of Toledo.
Oh,
So it's a good time to have you on here, Mom, who lives right there in Toledo, Ohio. The scandal would spread to 33 players and involve the world of organized crime. The CCNY was eventually banned from playing at Madison Square Garden, although the coach Nat Holman would be cleared of any wrongdoing. So the scandal first came to light because Junius Kellogg, that's a cool name, Junius Kellogg, a standout 6'8" Manhattan College center, was offered a $1,000 bribe to shave points before a game against DePaul. So, although he was working for a minimum wage at a frozen custard shop near campus, he refused to take the money, and then he reported the solicitation to his coach, Ken Norton, and Norton sent him to the district attorney. So the district attorney, to get evidence about the corruption, Junius wore a wire when he was again approached in a nearby bar, and the scandal first became public when New York City District Attorney Frank Hogan arrested 7 men on charges of conspiring to fix games on February 18th, 1951, where we're at now. Those taken into custody included All-American forward Ed Warner, center Ed Roman, and guard Al Roth, the 3 stars of CCNY's 5 that won both NIT and the NCAA tournaments, which is that was the first time it ever happened that they won both those tournaments. The police set up an undercover sting operation, and arrests were made at Penn Station when the players returned to New York from Philadelphia. after CCNY had defeated Temple 95-71. In all, 32 players from 7 colleges admitted to taking bribes between 47 and 50 to fix 86 games in 17 states.
Jeez.
Yeah, so the scandal would have long-lasting effects for some of the individuals involved. Like, there was one whole thing where this team was up by 30, and they were supposed to only beat the team by 3. So they just started, like, playing terrible and dropping the ball and missing everything way off. And it's, like, real obvious. I think it's how some of it started getting caught.
God.
So, and organized crime was involved. There were documentaries about this, but I wanted to jump to right away. Being from Toledo, Ohio, I want to dig into the Toledo people that were involved. There was a guy, William J. Walker Jr. He was a native of Queens, New York, and he played guard at University of Toledo Rockets from 48 to 51. He was known as an excellent dribbler and passer, and he was the first officially recorded national seasons assist leader with 7.24 game average. I mean, he doesn't care about that. But during a game against the Niagara Purple Eagles, I didn't know there was a Purple Eagles team, on December 15th of 1950, Walker's Rockets held a lead of 17 points with 3 minutes remaining. In the final minutes of the game, the Rockets misdribbled the ball, threw errant passes, and only won the game by 3 points. The game began suspicion among spectators that a fix had occurred, and an investigation was subsequently commenced. Walker and teammates Carlo Munzi and Robert McDonald were found to be involved in the point-shaving plot after having been instructed to win the Niagara game by less than the predicted 7 points. And they were asked to do the same thing against the Michigan Wolverines and the Illinois Fighting Illini and the Denver Pioneers, but they said it meant too much for the school to beat those teams, so they didn't do it then. But so that's a little bit about Toledo. University of Toledo, famous in 1951 for point shaving.
Awesome.
What do you feel about that? You think it's wrong?
I don't even understand it.
So basically,
my father was going to UT then.
Really, 1950s? Oh yeah, while you were born.
He went back to get his engineering degree.
I wonder if he went to any of those games.
Probably.
Raj likes sports. I wonder if Raj bet on any of those games. So the thing is, you can bet on games. Like, you can bet how many total points there's going to be. You can bet there's a spread they put out on the books. They put out who's going to win. You know, Toledo would be predicted to beat these guys by 7. So if you pick Toledo, they have to win by at least 7.
Oh.
But you can pick the other team, and the other team can still lose, and you can still win as long as it's under the 7 or whatever. But apparently it was like they only beat them by 3. So they'll pay the players, like, hey, make sure this outcome comes out the way I want it.
Right.
And I'll place all these bets knowing it's going to happen.
Oh, I get it.
You know
I
what I
get
mean?
it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I paid this guy off. So it's really bad. It's like cheating.
Yeah, that's bad.
But as the player, like I'm saying, this one guy's broke, and this is kind of why they've talked about today, is like, these college athletes don't get paid anything. But
right.
These colleges make all this money on college sports. And here's a guy like playing football that you think about the damage they take, brain damage and knee damage and everything. And the college is making millions of dollars on these sports, and you're not paying them anything. Like, they have to eat frozen custard. And so
I know.
And so you wonder why there's these scandal, like, you know, this pay to play, and people buy them cars and stuff like that. And some of these kids are struggling. Some of these kids come from poor areas, you know. Mm-hmm. Their families can't eat. Their families are poor. Their moms are poor, and they're putting their bodies on the line. If their knee blows out in college, they're not going to make it to the NFL. So
I know.
It's just and it's just sports in the end. So if it was me, I don't think I'd feel that bad if the guy gave me if you give me $1,000 in 1950. And I work at a frozen custard thing, and I'm broke. And it's just, in my mind, it's just a sports game. Who cares, you know?
Yeah.
Who's going to remember who won in 1951, you know?
Right.
I'd fucking throw the ball up in the stands and give me my $1,000.
Yeah.
And as we know, $1,000 in 1951 is $470 billion
today.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. It was quite money.
My figures might not.
But it's just... It just, I don't know. I'm questioning football. I'm sorry. I think it's too violent.
Yeah.
It just injures
With
people so
everything-
badly.
Well, and these people with
I know.
brain damage and CTE and hell, I have back trouble all the time from just
I
4 years
know.
of high school.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let John do it, and then you just bamboozled me into it, and I didn't like it. Remember we had to take you to the ER with jugs of urine. 'Cause They
Jeez.
thought your kidneys were damaged.
Yeah,
and
my
stuff.
kidneys were bleeding.
Oh my God.
But I don't think that had to do with football.
That was partying.
I think that was in junior high when that happened. That was wrestling. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, football is. I feel guilty for liking it. Okay, and then February. That brings us to February 19th, where Amy, my beautiful bride, has a story for us. Mom, you got time to listen to Amy blab on about murders?
I cannot wait. I
Okay.
love Amy's portion.
Ah,
Awesome.
My mom likes you and likes murders.
So I'm going to talk about. Well, I found this murder. Well, you sent me a murder.
I sent this murder to Amy.
Yes, and it's about a murderer named Jean Lee,
Yeah.
and she is from Australia, so it's not American.
Oh,
But as is sometimes happens, I couldn't find much,
that's why I sent that to you last time.
and because it was the Scottish guys.
Yeah.
Well,
Australia.
it doesn't matter. Anyway, then I could only really I had Wikipedia and I was all set, but then I dug some more and I found a newspaper article from February 13th, 1951
Happy birthday, Mom! Newspaper article from your birth.
from the Herald in Melbourne, I guess they call it Melbourne, Australia. And I'm going to read it.
Melbourne.
Yeah, but
they
I
call
think
it
they call
Melbourne?
it Melbourne over
Melbourne.
there. Yeah.
They also eat Vegemite, which is awful.
Yes, that's true. So this article is called "Portrait of a Murderess: 2 Chapters in the Life of Jean Lee."
Oh, wait, she is a murderess?
Yes.
Oh, I thought Jean Lee was going to get murdered, but
No.
she murders people?
So
Girl power, lady power, women power.
the story of Jean Lee divides itself into 2 main chapters. There's the girl who grew into womanhood and married, and then there's Jean Lee who helped to kill a man and who has been sentenced to be hanged next Monday, which would be the 19th of February.
Okay.
It's better to read that last chapter first. So, in a boarding house room in the Melbourne suburb of Carlton, a rather attractive young woman sat on the knee of a 73-year-old SP bookmaker, William Kent. He had a glass of wine to his lips and a foolish smile on his face. The date, November 7th, 1949. The woman on the old man's knee, chucking him under the chin and saying foolish things to him, was Jean Lee of Sydney. With Jean Lee and the old man were the woman's lover, Robert David Clayton, 32-year-old housebreaker, and a robber named Norman Anderson, age 38, who described himself as a clerk. So he described himself as a clerk. Nobody knows if that's true.
If he really was.
They believed that somewhere in the room or somewhere on his body, the old man had a roll of money. The foolish smile faded from the lips of the bookie, and his guests began to ask him where his roll was. He had picked them up in a hotel that day. He refused to answer. Then, with the idea of making the old man talk, there began a horrifying torture which lasted for more than an hour. While he was held in his chair, one of the men ripped the laces from the old man's boots and tied his hands behind his back. Jean Lee, according to a statement which she later denied having made, bashed the old man Kent with a wine bottle and a piece of wood in an effort to make him speak.
Wow.
The old man's nose was fractured, his larynx broken, his face slashed with knives, his stomach and thigh kicked and injured. Finally, the woman and the 2 men put a string around his neck and strangled him, all because he had a roll. And although Jean Lee was implicated in the crime by her own lover, the man with whom she sat arm in arm during her trial, she said she was drunk and couldn't remember.
He had a roll.
A roll of cash.
A roll of money.
Yeah.
Like dollar bill, not like a
Yes.
roll of quarters. All
Right.
I'm an idiot.
But here's the story of Jean Lee from its beginning.
Okay.
She was born in Dubbo on December 10th, 1919, into the family of a hardworking railway man named Wright. The family moved to Chatswood, and it was there that Jean grew up. She developed into a slight child with auburn hair and large golden brown eyes. She was an obedient enough child, as children go. She helped her mother about the modest house. I love this. I love this old-timey language.
Yeah.
She helped her mother about the house so she could sew before she went to school. She dressed her dolls in dainty clothes and proudly showed them to her mother. Jean didn't like school very much, but of course, there are tens of thousands of boys and girls who dislike school, yet grow into well-disciplined men and women. Jean was a trifle rebellious. She felt she didn't get on well with her teachers, but if this childish resentment of authority was the first suggestion of a shadow, that's all it was. In other ways, Jean Wright's girlhood progressed normally. She was a pretty girl now, her still slight figure and creamy skin giving the promise of attractive womanhood. So sexist.
I know, it's
so
just like
sexist?
that when I was reading the sewer cleaner, Miss
Yeah.
Sewer Cleaner
Yeah.
description.
Oh, yeah.
The same kind of thing. That's
She
ridiculous.
was popular at children's parties and gatherings. There were always boys anxious to partner her. Not that Jean bothered much about boys. She had one girlhood sweetheart and only one. She was more interested in basketball and swimming. She swam excellently, liked to go fishing, and could handle a small boat as expertly as a man.
Wow.
As a man, you say?
As a man?
Her
Hey.
school days and all her cushioned preparation for life ended when she was 15. Her parents were working folk, and Jean Wright, too, went to work. That was in 1935. Jean had learned shorthand and typing in her last years at the Chatwood Public School, and she got a job as an office junior with a William Street motor firm. She neither drank nor smoked, and the half-drunken men and women she saw coming out of some William Street wine bars repelled her and made her afraid. After work, she went straight home. Some evenings, she went to the pictures. Others, she stayed at home, listened to the radio, and sewed, a skilled needlewoman. In the late 30s, two events altered the whole course of her life. She got married in Sydney, and in Berlin, Hitler sent the world to war.
Whoa.
Now comes the unpredictable transition to tragedy. Jean Wright was married before she was 20 and became Jean Lee. It was no hurried marriage. She'd known her husband since girlhood, but not even the love for the child that was born to her was strong enough to hold her marriage together. Perhaps it was the latent rebelliousness that had shown itself since childhood. Perhaps the impact of war that made her desert her husband. Whatever it was, the marriage ended in the divorce court, and Jean Lee, now in her early 20s, began to fend for herself and her child. She became a waitress in Sydney. There was more money in this than being a junior stenographer, and the broken hours gave her time to devote to the needs of her child. She lived in small flats, in rooms wherever the rent was cheap and the surroundings reasonably good. She began to smoke. She had a drink now and then. Everywhere there was a desperate excitement. A drink helped her to live in it. Men and women coming out of hotels and wine bars no longer repelled her. She could go in and drink with them. The war came to the Pacific, and Jean Lee went north to Brisbane to wait on the troops in the service canteens. Perhaps the worst step she ever took, because there the shadows began to gather. She began to drink more, even in the town of hotels beleaguered by thousands of Allied servicemen. And Jean Lee, as her later records shows, is one of those people who cannot drink. She returned to Sydney in 1944, and in that year passed through the hands of the Sydney police, not once but often. It was the old story: a few drinks, very little money, a shabby approach to a man who looked as though he had money, a watchful policeman. She went to Perth, was fined £2 for having assumed a false name. Magistrate W.J. Walwork said it was an unusual prosecution, and he didn't see why the charge was laid. Jean's aliases were Marjorie Jean Breese and Jean Pierce. Jean managed to conceal from her mother that she had been picked up by the police. There was still some good in the rapidly corroding character. She helped to look after an American serviceman who had lost both his legs fighting the Japanese north of Australia. She worked as a waitress in a Pitt Street cafe and lived in a little room near the legless American, whose parents later took him back to the U.S. Sometime, years after 1944, exactly what is not known, she met and fell in love with David Clayton, a housebreaker, a receiver, a man of violence. Even she seems to have felt the urgent need to escape from him and her own feeling for him, because she fled from him to a coastal resort near Sydney. But Clayton followed her and pestered her, and the attraction was too strong. Late in 1949, she went with him to Melbourne. It was there on November 7th that she and Clayton and Andrews had a drinking session. It was after the drinking session that the three lured the old man Kent to his room at Carlton. It was in that room that they drank with the old man and bound him and battered him. And so so on February 19th, that is when she was the one of two women executed in Australia during the 20th century.
Well, she was executed on February 19th?
Yes.
Amy hates birthdays.
The same day that actor Stephen Nichols from Days of Our Lives, who plays Patch, was born in Cincinnati, Ohio that same day?
Yes, that same day. So on that day, now this is from a little bit from Wikipedia. She was executed at 8:00 a.m. And then at 10:00 a.m., her accomplices Robert Clayton, 32, and Norman Andrews, 38, were also hanged.
Wow.
Yep.
I missed the other two dates you gave me. So
I know because that was from Wikipedia, and
you didn't end up using those.
I didn't end up using them. So that's my story.
Are you sticking to it?
I'm sticking to
So
it.
she's very beautiful, that woman. She's a beautiful murderer.
Yeah.
So there are beautiful female murderers. So Janelle Monáe might murder somebody.
You never know.
I don't know. How do you murder an old person like that?
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess when you're desperate, it sounds like she was pretty desperate.
I mean, it's hard to blame the victim, but at the same time, why did that old man go with those 3 young people? Were they partying?
Yeah.
They must have been partying.
Probably drunk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When you're drunk.
But I think she was like, they were setting it up so that she was going to get with the old man. Like that's what it said on Wikipedia.
Almost like a prostitution.
Yes,
type of
it was
thing.
like a prostitution thing.
Yeah, so
but,
he probably thought it was.
But she distracted him while they went through and looked for the stuff, and then they beat him up when they couldn't find it.
Well, I only have a couple more things, and we'll wrap up.
All right.
But thanks for that, Aim. You guys, we got an awesome woman, and then a horrible woman.
That's right.
and then I'm gonna bring February 24th, 1951, and cue the music because.
Amy hates birthdays. Amy hates birthdays.
That's right, Amy hates birthdays. American actress and comedian best known for her roles as Kitty Foreman on the Fox sitcom That 70s Show. Best known for her role as Kitty Foreman on the Fox sitcom That 70s Show, Deborah Jo Rupp was born in Glendale, California, in the family of Margaret A. Williams Rupp and John E. Rupp Jr., and raised in Boxford, Massachusetts, where she attended Masconomet Regional High School, home of the Chieftains. The school's colors are Alzerian crimson and eggshell.
Oh, God, come on.
She graduated in 1969, has 2 sisters, Robin Lee Rupp and Rebecca Louise Rupp.
Do you have anything of substance to add at the end here, or is it all like that?
Well, notable alumni that went to school
No,
with Deborah
come
Jo
on.
Rupp are Abby D'Agostino, a track and field star.
Come on, we got to run this.
You don't want to do notable alumni?
No.
Do you know who Deborah Jo Rupp is? You know who I'm talking
Yes.
about? Yeah. The mom from That 70s Show. She's your age, Mom. And so is Stephen Nichols from Days of Our Lives. Patch? You and Patch are the same age.
Oh, Patch.
Yeah, Patch.
Is that who that was?
Yeah, Stephen Nichols, yeah.
I think that show's still on.
And I think he still wears an eye patch. I think he's still on
Probably.
70 years old. Eye patch. They're still making love to women. I got a couple other quick things. February 27, 1951 was when the 22nd Amendment was ratified. So before that, the president had not been subject to term limits. So remember, George Washington had established a 2-term tradition that most other presidents followed until FDR, who decided, nope, I'm going to be president 4 times. And then they finally decided, okay, we can't let this happen again. So they put that together, yeah. I think people liked FDR, but I think they were just like, this could be somebody bad.
I wish they would do that in the Senate.
Yeah, they really should.
We need more term limits.
Yes.
There needs to be term limits for
Congress.
everybody, and there needs to be a limit on income on these people. Like, why are these people rich? Why are we making them rich? It should be, you should be paid like a teacher to do this thing. So you would only do it if you really cared, not to make a bunch of money.
I don't think they make, their salary isn't the issue. It's book deals and it's lobbyists. And
their salaries are still high. Their salaries are high. They make a lot of money.
like a CEO.
Well, like $300,000-$400,000 a year or something like that. I don't know.
It's not right. It's not right.
I wonder-
Let Bernie Sanders get in there.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
everything.
How much? What's the salary of a senator?
Here's a summary from smartacid.com. Most senators and representatives make an annual salary of $174,000.
See, that's not that much.
Those in leadership make
$174,000 is still a lot of money.
Well,
I mean,
that's
they're
a
not
hard
rich
job.
they're not rich off that, but
It's a hard job.
Speaker of the House makes $223,000. Yeah, but most people make $30,000,
Right,
or something like that.
but-
So I don't think you should be that well off.
It's not that well off. I think we should be paid more.
Oh, maybe it is. Maybe they should be paid less. We should be paid more.
Yeah.
Well,
That-
we'll table.
Well,
Yeah, go
then
ahead.
you're talking about communism.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have to
Which
have.
was-
You should have another full-time job, and do that.
Okay, can we find
I
this
don't
up?
know. You should have to serve. You should have to also work at a fast food place and be a senator
All right, let's move on.
for that price. All right, a couple other things. February 28th, the Senate committee reports of at least 2 major U.S. crime syndicates, and there's a whole Senate government thing. So this is just to tease something I'm going to talk about in the next episode in March, because in March it really they had televised hearings with the mob, like Senate or televised in the Senate. They had these televised hearings of people questioning organized crime, and it took the country by storm, and it was all this big deal. People were gripped to their televisions watching these potential mob bosses, they were becoming aware of interstate crime syndicates and
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I got a bunch of stuff all over the country, what was going on with this whole thing. And so it's more for March than it is for February. So I'll save that till next episode.
Yeah.
But that'll be kind of a cool thing we're going to talk about next. But this has been a fun hour, Mom.
Yes,
Thank
you so much.
Thanks for being here, Mom.
Thank you guys. I'm kind of bad and rusty at this, but thank you for bearing with me.
Oh,
and-
you did a great
My
job.
mom hasn't been on a podcast for a long time. It's been years since she's been a podcast guest.
You guys are delightful. It's always so entertaining to watch you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, do you have anything to plug?
When's
you have
your other birthday?
any books coming out?
My other birthday?
Yeah.
No, I didn't have any books. I am getting my Pfizer vaccine tomorrow.
Are
Oh,
you?
good.
All
Yay!
right.
I was
First
going to ask
dose.
you.
Pfizer vaccine. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lucas County, Ohio. Thanks for
Yeah.
giving my mom a
And,
vaccine.
Are you snowed
and I
in?
did forget to- no, I'm dug out now.
Good. Okay.
I was supposed to get it last Tuesday.
Yeah, but you guys had a big giant. Yeah, it was last Tuesday. You got a big snowstorm.
Yeah.
And you had
so
to
they
postpone
postponed it till Monday.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
So as soon as you get it, are you gonna just go lick all the doorknobs and just go to a pub crawl?
I don't think so.
There
I
you go.
think we've got a lot of experience floating around there, and
You
Yeah.
gotta wait for the second one. Wait for the second one and then do that.
the second one will be March 15th, I believe.
Okay.
Good. I get mine on next Saturday.
Hey, Amy gets hers on a week from Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a week from yesterday.
Next Saturday, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are both getting it in the same week. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys all do good. Hang in there and hopefully you feel better. Thanks for being here on American Timelines. It's the first time we've ever had one of our mothers. Well, your mom was on here briefly.
For a minute.
Yeah, we called her. We had her on briefly to yell at her because of Brooke Shields being naked in a movie when she was 12. So we wanted an apology from Amy's mom.
From somebody who
who was alive.
who was an adult at that time.
And she apologized. She apologized on behalf of
did?
society. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll bring you back later, Mom, to apologize for the next appalling thing we find that happened while you were alive.
Okay.
But thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you. It's time to get out of here, Chuck Berry.
Good luck with your vaccine, and
Yeah.
let
I'm a little
Dale.
nervous.
Do you want to say anything to our listeners? Any words of advice?
Any words of advice?
Yeah.
Just be kind to each other.
Yeah.
That's right,
That is
damn it.
right. Good. Yeah, listen to my mom, you
Listen.
assholes. Be kind to each other. Thanks for listening. Let Dale through. You already said yeah.
I did.
Okay. I love you guys. I love both of you ladies.
I love you guys too.
And that's
You're
the
the
end.
best.
And that's the end. We're not.
Thank you so
not
much.
Rock and roll, all I say. I'm the famous kind of
Broken Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
Make me some cookies, bitch.